Okay, Commissioner of the TRSBA is here. There's not long to go in our TRSBA regular season. We have a total of, some teams have only got about 8 or 9 games to play. We're sort of cutting it off around the 15th. That's when we think that the season will be right to go. So without any further ado, every team will get discussed today. And I don't know if I'll be brutal, but we'll see. We will see if the commission is going to be as brutal as they say that they are. The commission looking big there. That's great. Okay. We are jockeying for playoff positions, and this is we're going to start with the East, and then we're going to go to the West, and we're going to go for the best records first. So let's talk about the Alabama Wild Bulls, 33-7 at 742 odd average, which is the best in the league. Congratulations there to Bradley Heffernan, Joker, 46.5 fantasy points a game. Hasn't been re-signed yet. They've got 3. I mean, he's about 9.2. It was the asking price for Joker. So they've got 3 slots available. I'd be surprised if they use all 3, but you never know. They'll definitely re-sign Joker, but they won't get a better price than 9.2. I'm a bit concerned about Randall's injury today. We'll see what the shoulder shows. Hopefully he is okay for their sake. He's one of their big pieces. He's been playing really, really well. Edwards has been reliable. Ant has been what we call, he's been very solid. But because he plays every game, he's one of these guys that's hard to have a long-term injury, touch wood. But 35 fantasy points a game, you'd want nearly closer to 40 if you're a fan of Edwards, because he has that ability. He's a number 1 pick. He should be around about that sort of concern there. He should be around those sort of numbers. So I think what else can we say about the Alabama Wild Boars? I mean, they certainly are beatable, I think, at the moment. I think you've got Kevin Durant who's playing really, really well. He's about 38 fantasy points a game. He's really right up there. Kobe White's been great. Buckets is not as good as he was. He's getting older. His trade value is fuck all. Zubac, he's been out for a long term with an injury. Derek White's had a fantastic year. There's no doubt about that. Schroeder is a good fill-in player. He's actually been re-signed. Powell, I don't think they'll re-sign him, but he's a minimum player. Why would you re-sign a minimum player? I'm not sure. I think Trace Jackson Davis is probably the guy that I'd be looking at to resign if I were the Alabama Wild Boars. Are we going to the Cows next? Okay, well, here we go. There's Jaylen Brown. The Cows unassumably are the second best team as we speak in the East. I don't think they could not. It's 50% chance they end up there at the end of the regular season. Well, they're 26-14, which is a lot better than I thought they would be. D'Lo's on a real hot streak. Jared Allen's on a hot streak. D'Lo because he's just on a hot streak. Jared Allen mainly because of Mobley not being around for a long time has certainly helped. And JJJ, you've got Bain out pretty much for the season. You've got Morant out for the season. You've got Smart out close to the season. 3 big pieces. Jaren Jackson is just feasting. Will they get shut down? Hopefully not. They are looking deepish when you look at their sort of team. They do have that sort of, and I think that's got a lot to do with how well they're doing. They've remained relatively healthy. DeJounte Murray doesn't miss games. Jaylen Brown doesn't miss. He misses the odd game. They've got Chet Holmgren. You can't really forget that they've got Chet there, and he's like 6 or 7 on the team. He's probably a starter-worthy player. He's definitely a better player than Jared Allen, but Jared Allen's getting better fantasy stats at the moment. Quickly, he's a grade 8th man. Cam Thomas is solid. They'd be disappointed with Cam Johnson. This is weird because not one player on this team is sort of over 31.2, yet they have this sort of record. So it proves you can have these sort of records these sort of stats with with a team that hasn't got a top 20 player in it. So it is possible, but they've got a lot of players between 20 and 60, probably a good 8 or 9. So that really sets them apart. They've done this without Tari Eason. I think they've done pretty well here. They've got a good team. They're going to compete, depending on their health as well. But if Jared Allen and Jaron Jackson are going to play, that's going to cause a few problems. Onto the Predators, they also 26-14, a 212 average. They've got 5 slots to resign. I think Terry's always like this, always gets in late with those re-signings. This is probably the most of all TRSBA teams, I believe. Levine not signed, PG-13 not signed. I'd expect the other 3 could be Moody, Caruso, and Lopez, but it just depends on what they are going to end up with. I mean, Embiid is just a monster. He's the best player in the league by far. The guards generally are a weak point because Beal's not always reliable. Levine has proved not to be reliable with that ankle. So those 2 guys have missed half the season so far. And they haven't got much backup. You look down the list, it's Alec Caruso is the next person backing him up. Dasumu, Reggie Jackson, Alec Burks. Good front court, but with Paolo Banchero, very, very solid as well. And they got Nurk there as well. So they got Brook Lopez. They got a lot of depth for that center position in the front court. The Wolfhounds are 20-20. That's unassumed with their average. I mean, Dan keeps complaining about how bad the Wolfhounds actually are because of their average, but they are 20-20. They've got a full signed all 11 players. Sexton has come on strong. He's averaging 30 fantasy points a game over the last 20. He's starting here. Van Vliet was got. So it was a mixture. They're weird. They got rid of some potential superstars to get Van Vliet, but he's good enough. Mikal Bridges is good. We know that Carl Anthony Towns is sort of on the ascendancy. Touch with that, he keeps going well. Claxton is good as well. Jaden Ivey is a future superstar. Second year in the league. Gordon, yeah. Josh Giddey. Now, he's the one I'd be disappointed in. I think he's just taken a step back at the moment. He's got 3rd-year regression. The 4 depth overall is a weakness. And I can't really see much on there. I don't think Aaron Gordon can be relied on. You don't want him starting if something happens. So PJ Washington, I didn't see him there. He's definitely going to have his moments this season as well. Cam Whitmore, I wonder if what will happen there, but these guys are going to get protected for next season. The Jags. We'd hope to have a better record than 500, but here we go. I think by the end of the season, it should be above 500, but it also might not be as well. We've got a slot left now. We've got 10 contracts signed out of 11 players. There was a big trade. Miles Bridges has come on board, and we've got rid of Mark Williams and Yome Yaquez. We've also got a top 8 2024 pick. It's hard to know where. That could be a top 6 pick. So we think there's a lot of value in that pick. So we just figured that pick, Yame Yaquez, maybe we can do some research in this draft and get the best player, because this is sort of an open. This draft is all over the place, but we think we're deep enough to be able to take that risk. We took Miles Bridges as a 30 fantasy points a game player. The only problem is there are rumors, and we can't act on rumors. We think that there might be a court date. We think that there might be a trade, but LaMelo's back playing well with Miles. I think you'd want to keep that sort of duo together. But so it's a risk. It is a risk, and it could pay off or not. The Jags will be in their first playoff series in a long time, I think. So that's definitely happening, and it'll just be a matter of what does Bridges do there. Kuzma's been great, another big game recently. Jalen Williams has been fantastic, but we're holding on to McCollum. McCollum's trade value is not as high as a lot of these other players because of his age. Julian Duran has been great. Michael Porter Jr., up and down. Good signing for Vince Williams, the bug. With Jordan Poole playing like shit, we needed something to go right for us, and I think he is. Jordan Poole has just been horrific. Tyus Jones hasn't been much better, but he gets a lot of assists. Gafford has been okay. Bogdanovic, I think you can see he might sort of go off a bit as we sort of end the season. I think he's too old. That they're not going to shut him down necessarily. I think Atlanta going to miss the playoffs. I would like to see Bogdan get featured a bit, or one of these guards get traded and he just comes in there and bombs away. With that slot, I mean, Koulibaly is an option because he might go off, and that's how we got to read this. Case Wallace is looking great, but we're not going to add him to the playing roster this year. Amin is starting to show a few signs, which is good. I mean, Vince Williams could be the one to re-sign, but remember, he's doing all this without Bain, without Smart, without Jar. When those three guys ever come back next year, someone like the Bug is going to have a role. We think he's probably going to be a rotation player, but not well, does he become a great fantasy player? Hard to know. On to the next team, I think. The Nerds. Yeah, they're all got their sign. They got 32.6 million for 11-11, but yet he's complaining about the cap. I mean, I don't think you can complain about the cap too much when you're under by that much for next year, Dan. Harden and Kawhi to be huge, mate. These two guys have been absolutely massive. I think Kawhi is really showing his stuff. They are a threat to come out of this, even if they end up in that sixth slot. You know, if they end up sixth, which all indicators are that it'd take a bit of effort to overtake the Wolfhounds and the Jags. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but they could easily come out of the East. It's notwithstanding the Predators, anybody can come out. Toby's starting, so is he a starting worthy player? Not when you look at the other four players that he's got starting, but he's going to have to do for now. We've got Bagley playing okay. We've got Draymond back. We've got some good stuff happening with Vooch. I think he's had a better season than what most would have said. DeRozan also is getting older. He's 34. If you look at their starting lineup, 33, 31, 34, 32, 34, all veterans. And Klay Thompson, 33, Brogdon, 31, Green, 33. The top 8 are all 31 or older, which is crazy to me. Bagley looks like he's probably that age. But Horford, 37 as well. So they've got a lot of old players. I'm not sure what they do about getting some younger players into their team. The Butchers, we know they're tanking. They've got 11 out of 11 contracts. Ayton is signed for the 5 years, a long time. He's sort of concerning, if I'm not being mistaken there. Let's just have a look at Ayton. He's their price sort of piece at the moment. As I said, he's the only guy that I know with that sort of contract going for 5 years. And yeah, is he going to break down? 23.9 fantasy points a game for him is just shit. He's a lot better than that. I mean, Collins isn't much worse than him, and Collins is bad. Keegan Murray. If you go up and down your team and you see that Keegan Murray at 24.1 fantasy points a game is your best player, then you're in all sorts of trouble. Yuck is. He came back, but I don't know. I think with that Rozier trade, it really will affect his stats. We think Kessler, Murphy, Bruce Brown, these are all tweeners. We've only had 6 games from Ben Simmons. Mark Williams, I think, will have an impact at some point. He's probably their best fantasy player, but he's only played 19 games. But they got rid of their best player. Miles Bridges was their best player, just so you knew that. The Lions, I found this picture there. Hiding in the other part of this picture is Scoot Henderson, which is on this team as well. But Jordan overlooked Scoot to draft Brandon Miller. So that was a meme going around. They do need to re-sign Jalen Green. So if you sleep at the wheel, Dale, just don't forget to do that. There's only a couple of weeks to do that. They've had a dismal season. Scoot will definitely take some time. But Brandon Miller's been solid, and they've sort of made the right picks. I think Scoot might be better longer term, but I think Miller started out pretty well. They need more centers more than anything. I mean, if you've got Drummond there as your fucking center, then you fucked. I mean, yes, he had a good run, but that was for like 3 or 4 games with Vooch is out. So I don't really see a lot happening here. over to the Western Conference. The Barbarians in the lead for now. And I think I had a look at something. I think it's only like 1 out of the last 10 years or something that the Barbarians have not made the TRSBA final, something ridiculous like that. They are 29-11. They've got a 234 average. There aren't many changes that they've done in that top seven. So that top seven core has remained the same for so long. What we find is that can work for 3 or 4 years, but does it work longer than that? And the Lions, sort of didn't get rid of players quick enough. And yeah, they got their 4 championships, but now look where they are now. But I'm not saying that the Barbarians, I think the GM is probably too good and has too much pride to sort of rebuild. You've got 2 players that we can see right there in the picture. We've got Curry and we've got Lillard, and they're both getting north of that 33 mark. And what sort of trade value are these guys going to have now? I mean, they're going to sort of try to win them a championships this season. The front court are a bit younger. Siakam's probably the oldest spokesman there. Bam is young. Tatum is youngish. Those guys there, but they've got Simons coming through. They've got Maxey coming through. Those are younger guys, Maxey in particular, I think. But once you get past those 7 players, everybody else is expendable. There's no real value. We've seen how bad Spencer Dinwiddie is recently. And he hasn't been, he's been shopped around the league and no one's really bitten on him at the moment, unfortunately. I think what may happen is, I think there's a chance that Matty McDermott will activate Lively for the playoffs, because I think he's a really good player, Lively. He actually sprouted to me, and I talking about a Mark Williams trade recently, and Lively, I put him sort of in the deal. He goes, "Oh, Lively's better than Mark Williams." So let's see if that's the case. Put him on your team, put your money where your mouth is, sign the guy. He's good enough to probably make your squad, but certainly better than the 8th man at the moment. So I would think that he's probably going to get activated before the playoffs. I think the roster cap space allows him to do that, but it's whether or not you choose to do that. And maybe he finds a free agent steal. Maybe he's on the hunt right now over these last 8 or 9 games to try to get a couple of these players at a minimum value, try to get a steal and try to get them there. They've been fairly healthy-ish. They can have 3 players extended, and who knows, they might only extend 1 player at the most, or maybe 1, or certainly not going to do more than 2. We're not going to do 3, we know that, but it's how many they do and what they take, what they sort of, I mean, they know Lively's protected for next year, so that could be a reason not to activate him. But when you've got someone like that, who I think is playing well and getting better with these 2 really good guards, then yeah, makes sense. The LA Pens, 28-12, 234 average. They've been on top a few times throughout the year. That Bain injury is really going to hurt, because, they had a really good 6 players there with Bain, and now with him hurt, can he get back in time for the playoffs? We don't know. It's going to be tough. I've heard some reports, yes, sir. Some reports, no. And it's 50-50 for Bain. That does hurt. That's going to probably not make them win the home court advantage in the West. So that does hurt. Cade is back though, so that makes things a bit better. JV's there for the depth. Avdi is coming on. OG is good. They've got that 1 slot available. They've got $3.3 million cap. JV fits exactly into the cap. Would you waste the whole thing on JV when JV got traded to you just for the playoff run, and you might protect some other younger fella? Laurie has been pretty good again, backing up his All-Star year last year. Will the depth end up being an issue for this team in the playoffs? I don't know. I wrote that down to say that I think their depth will be tested in the playoffs. Because, if you don't have good depth, you really get found out. And I do think that there's a chance that could be the problem come the playoffs. They might be up against some teams with some slightly better depth. But we'll see. I mean, Luke Kennard, he might be one to step up. Onyeka Okongwu could go into a situation where he gets some stats too. So there's a lot to roll the dice with this Penguins, and anything can happen. They can be the dominant team in the West, or it could sort of fall to pieces a little bit. The OC double doubles, yeah, they got some really good talent at the top of this team. AD and Luca. Luca about 50 fantasy points a game. AD has been absolutely an unbelievable wrecking ball of a player. He's played the most games out of the since a certain date I read last year. So he's actually been proved to be very durable this season, which has surprised a lot of us, including the GM, like and Tommy Hertz and Mr. Roman Dada, whatever his fucking name is. So I think that has been a huge for these guys, and they've had some record scores that they've pouted as well. Luca also with some record scores. Wagner back from injury should be good the rest of the season. Gobert, I expected him to sort of bounce back a bit this season, and he has done that. He's sort of been great lately, 30 fantasy points over the last 10. Rozier is going to take a hit, and that's just really bad because he was having a really good role in Charlotte. You change your team, you become about the third or fourth option. It's going to be tough for Rozier. I think he'll get the minutes. I just don't think he'll get the stats. J.R. Holiday's had his worst season for a long time, but I think he needs to step up for this team to have any chance. There's a slot available. Who does it belong to? I don't know. If I was a betting man at the moment, first of all, you look at the cap space and you say, okay, well, there's 2.1 there. Is Melton worth extending? Maybe, maybe not. Herbert Jones worth extending? Maybe, probably, most certainly not. They've only got the 13 players there. The problem is they can't really. They've only got 12 that take up cap space. That's a tough one, man. You pretty much have to waive Herbert Jones if you're going to get an extra player, which that's rough. That's pretty rough. I don't think they'd want to waive Herbert Jones, but you might have to. Bones Highland's been in a disappointing funk. Jalen Smith, geez, yeah, Herter, he sucks. Okay, Tigers. One of the surprise package for this team is the guy who pictured this, Grayson Allen, but we'll look at him a bit later. Sabonis has been really good, 38 fantasy points a game. He'd probably get an all-star game, maybe. It's hard to know. Halliburton is an all-star starter. His injury is a concern, I think, though, for this team. I think the Tigers need Halliburton healthy, need him leading the league in assists, need him playing like an all-star if they'd knock off one of these teams ahead of them. RJ Barrett's their fifth best player. Scotty Barnes has been great, as has Fox, both 36-point fantasy game sort of level players. They missed Shaden Sharp. Shaden's a good player, and I think he'll probably come on late in the season, and I think he'll be welcome. Wendell Carter's back. I think you'll see huge strides from him. This team's on the up. The core is what wins them games. You got a slot available when we come back to Grayson Allen. He's played well enough, deserves a slot maybe. He's 28, though. He's 24.6 over the last 5. Is there anybody there that you'd look to re-sign ahead of someone like a Grayson Allen? The SAR's already signed. I think Jarris Walker is probably protected. Let's just have a look. I was going to check on Jarris. Jarris Walker does have that contract, as does a SAR. But I don't think they'll protect Sassus. I think there's too many Piston guards. Utah Saints. Utah Saints. Here we go. Here's our boy, Jabari Walker. Jabari Walker, the mascot. Now, this guy has resigned, which is really good. Really pleasantly happy about this. Although hasn't been updated on the has not been updated. Why is that not updated? That's bizarre. I thought he'd signed Jabari Walker, and he didn't he waive Caleb Houston. So what's going on? Let's just get that sorted out. But anyway, he it's been confirmed. I got that. So Mobley and Jar's injury has definitely hurt this team, and I find it very difficult for this team to win the West. That's just too much to come back from. I think, especially the Jar injury. We know that's out for the season. We know that Mobley is going to may not be great when he comes back, but he could be okay. Hero and Zion above the 30, and you've got your standouts with Shea and Trey. Shea is just phenomenal. Defender, everything. Maverin hasn't stepped up. He needs to. Vasil needs to step up more. He needs to. He's really slowed down. I think a lot to do with Wemby. Jalen Johnson, what I find that is, I think that's a great trade. I sort of slammed the trade with Ayton, but it's looking okay. Yeah, so that's the Utah Saints. The Snipers, they've got Kuminga in the starting lineup now. They've got Giannis at center. They've got 11-11 signed. They've got Irving and Ingram. They've got two vets there. I mean, Ingram looked. Who would have told you? If I said that, told you that Ingram was 26, he looks like 36, doesn't he? He's only 26 years of age, but he's playing like he's about 36. How old he looks. Jordan Clarkson starting. Garland probably start if he comes back and starts doing something. Sohan has been a revelation. Good that Austin Reeves is playing well. Capella still weird. I mean, he's only 29, so that's why he's still good. So yeah, the Snipers are going to battle. They could make the playoffs here. Don't count them out. Their bench is deep. Yeah. And the last two teams, the Flyers, LeBron and LaMelo. And Miles Turner is your number 3 guy. And the rest of the team, as Chael Sonnen would say, absolutely suck. Let's have a look as to what I'm talking about there. Chris Middleton's past his use by date. Keldon Johnson sucks. He's not as good anymore with coming off the bench, the Wemby situation. Tim Hardaway and LeVert do their things. We know Hartenstein is okay, so maybe not everyone sucks. We know Buddy Hield sucks. Westbrook sucks. Marcus Smart's out. Dylan Brooks sucks. Lonnie Walker sucks. Mitch Robinson's out for the season, probably sucks. The cockroach Bosun Plumlee, he sucks. Poor old Dalen Terry, I'm not going to keep his players right, so he sucks. And my precious Achua, fuck me. Oh, yes, but an opportunity perhaps if Randall's out. So we'll see. And the last team, the Hurricanes, some bizarre behavior from this franchise. But when you've got Wemby, you can't go too much wrong. You're going to have the number 1 player in fantasy basketball in 2 or 3 years' time, 35 and 28 minutes as a rookie. That's pretty much unheard of. Donovan Mitchell's elite, as is Jamal Murray. So you've got 3 players you can potentially build around with this franchise. So even though you might fuck up a few draft picks from time to time, maybe like a Jabari Smith, but ultimately, I think that you've got the pieces, so you just need to find some of these other pieces now. Zach Collins is not one of them. He sucks. You've got a slot left. It's either Strawther or probably someone like a Josh Hart. Probably one of the hardest working players in the NBA is Josh Hart, about to go on a run, so he is really solid. DeAndre Hunter, is he still around? I assume he is, yeah. Caldwell Pope, Wiseman, he sucks. Christian Wood, he's really sort of fallen from grace, that guy. What else can I say about this team? What you got to understand, guys, is Brandon Clark re-signed. That was the thing that I didn't know what was going on there. I mean, obviously you see something in Brandon Clark that a lot of other GMs don't. So the league is the closest it's ever been. I'm looking really, really forward to the playoffs. I'm looking forward to these last-ditch moves to try to get teams over the line. I honestly think it's going to be anybody's guess as to who wins, but it'd be great if it came out of the East. I want the East to win. And even if it's And if it's not Hef, it's even better, probably. Sorry, Hef. But it would be good to have an underdog team out of the East come and disrailing one of these teams in the West, not named Hef. That's what I hope happens, but we'll see what happens. The Jags are going to give it some. We're going to battle. We're going to try our hardest. When it's not over until the fat lady sung. Not over at all. And it's going to be enthralling playoff series. I think I'll come back once we get to the first round previews of the playoffs. The NBA draft 2024 looks like it's all over the shop. It really does. We've got till about the 15th when it comes to the trade deadline. Okay. Thanks very much, all. See you later.